Okay, so let's start on this. I'm going to start this by saying multiplying fractions is not nearly as in-depth or as complicated as adding or subtracting. So this should be a little bit easier for us. Okay, so let's start with step one. Step one is that we need to get our fraction in simplest form. So get fractions in simplest form first. Okay, so we always want to start off with smaller numbers because sometimes when you're multiplying, the numbers can get pretty large. So we want to get them in simplest form so that way they're not big numbers. Next, how I say it is you just multiply straight across. So these next two steps go hand in hand. You multiply straight across. So we multiply our numerators together. Okay, and then we multiply our denominators. So we just go straight across there. And then if you can, you simplify to get it into simplest form. So those are hopefully pretty straightforward. So I'm going to look at example 1 here. Let's see. Are these fractions in simplest form already? Yes or no? Yes. So hopefully you said yes. So step 1, already done. Step 2, multiply our numerators. So we multiply straight across. What's 4 times 3? It's 12. Okay, step 2. Check. Step 3 is multiply our denominators. What's 9 times 5? 9 times 5 is 45. And then simplify. Okay, so I would make sure maybe rack your brain for your multiplication tables. Okay, because this one seems like maybe it can't be, but it can be simplified. Both the top and the bottom can be simplified by taking out a 3 from them. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 45 divided by 3 is 15. So that's your answer. Now, I want to show you something else here. So see how we divided out a 3? Instead of saying in step 1, get fraction in simplest form, maybe we could also say check for cross products. Okay, so check for cross products. So hopefully you wrote this down because I'm going to erase this all and pretty much start the problem over. Just kidding, I'm not going to erase it all. I'm just going to rewrite it and kind of zoom in. So pause. Okay, so let me rewrite it here. So we have 4/9 times 3/5. Cross products, or when we look at the diagonals and see if those can be simplified. Can 4 and 5 be simplified? Do any numbers or any factors of 5 go into 4 besides 1? No. What about 3 and 9? Is there a factor of both 3 and 9 that they share? Hopefully you're saying yes. 3 goes into both of those numbers. So just like over here where I'm dividing 3, but I did it at the end, I'm taking out a 3 now. So I'm pretty much dividing out a 3 beforehand. So 3 divided by 3, this becomes a 1. 9 divided by 3, it becomes a 3. So pretty much we're replacing and dividing out a 3 before we even multiply. So that way we don't have to worry, is this in simplest form at the end? Because it will be, because I took care of it before I even multiplied. Okay, so now you still just go straight across, but instead of now 4 times 3, it's really 4 times 1, which is 4. And same thing down here, but now it's 3 times 5, which is 15. So either way, we get the same answer. So if you don't like cross products, don't worry about it. If you like them, I'm going to show it one more time, but we don't have to go over it a whole bunch. Okay, but just make sure if you don't use cross products that you're simplifying it at the end. Okay, let's look at example 2 then. So we have 4 7s and 6 11s. Okay, so my first thing, are they both simplified? 4 7s, that's simplified. 6 11s, simplified. Okay, if it helps to put the checks, do it. Cross products, 4 and 11. Can a number go into both 4 and 11? No. So checked that cross product. What about 6 and 7? Nope. So we did step 1. We checked for cross products and or we checked to see if it could be simplified. So now we have to do step 2, which is multiply your numerators. So multiply straight across. So multiply my numerators straight across. So what's 4 times 6? So that's 24. 24. What's 7 times 11? That's 77. What am I forgetting though? What haven't I talked about in this problem yet? Hopefully you know that it's the negative sign here. And hopefully you think, oh, I know what to do with that because of the tic-tac-toe board, where we put in our pluses and then everything else is a minus sign. And I know a positive times a negative is equal to a negative sign. So this should be a negative 24 over 77. And that's my answer. Okay. So let's look at example 3. What's a little different here? 7/4 is an improper fraction, but that's kind of what we always want. We always want improper fractions with this. Okay. But then we have this whole number 5. So you may remember, or maybe not, this may blow your mind, but whenever I write a number such as 12, if I write the number 12, it's technically a fraction. We just don't ever write it as a fraction. There's an implied 1 underneath of any whole number that we don't write because mathematicians are lazy and we don't feel like it. So anytime you see just a whole number, such as the number 14, it's really, there's an implied 1 underneath. And that applies to all whole numbers. So with this 5, there's really an implied 1 underneath. Okay, so there's really an implied 1 there. So that's really the only big difference here. Then we multiply across. 7 times 5 is 35. Multiply across, and we get 4. But what are we forgetting? It's a positive times a negative, so our answer's negative. And then we have to simplify. 4 goes into 32 8 times with 3 left over. And I forgot my negative sign when I wrote it there. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully. So that's multiplying fractions. Let's jump down to multiplying mixed numbers. So just like previously, there's only one step that's different. it's that you always want to make them improper fractions first. So we want to make them improper fractions first. Then we want to check for cross products. Okay. If you don't like to use cross products, that's fine. Don't do it. And then multiply across. Okay, and what I mean is multiply numerators. And then the denominators together. Last always is simplify. Okay, always simplify. So let's look at this first example. So we have to make them improper fractions. Hopefully by now you're an expert at this. But just to review, denominator times whole number, add numerator. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 plus 4 is 13 ninths. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11 fifths. And we're multiplying. Check for cross products. 13 and 5, they're good. 9 and 11, there's nothing. So we multiply straight across. If you don't know those numbers, take some time to multiply them. Okay, 3, 4. So it's 143 over 45. And I'm gonna say that it goes 3 times, which is 135. So then there's 8 left over. So it's 3 and 8, 45ths. Okay, if you didn't know that it went in 3 times, that's when you start practicing. It's 45, 90, 135. Okay. So I want you to do the next 2 on your own. The next 2. Okay, make them improper fractions. Check for cross products. Multiply. Simplify. All right, so hopefully you watched your signs. Okay. Both of these had negative numbers in them. So your answer should be negative. Okay. So work on the homework and keep on going.